Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you a few pieces of general advice for book collecting. The first piece of advice I would give you is to collect things that you're going to read first off, and also to pick an author or a genre to collect. For me specifically, that typically involves horror, gothic novels, things along that nature. As far as collecting first editions or signed works or anything along those lines, you're going to want to gear toward modern authors or relatively new authors, because those are going to be the first editions and the signed copies and things like that you're actually going to be able to find. One good way to do this too is to pick up new books as they're coming out. One instance of this, I have a first edition of it's Parcel Everett's James, and it's a great book, and it's also a first edition because it came out last year. So it's going to be a lot easier to pick up a first edition just by buying it brand new, and in the future it could become more valuable. And that's how a lot of people in the past have come to have first editions. They buy them when they come out, and then years and years down the line they become more popular and therefore more valuable. Cormac McCarthy is a good example of this. He's recently passed away. He's considered a modern classic author. You could find a copy of The Road at a secondhand or bookstore that's marked up by the booksellers for like $40. So, and obviously it's going to be more if it's a signed copy of that book. So that's typically how you want to go about collecting books. If you're looking for books, the typical places is where you're going to find these things that are going to be accessible to you as far as price wise and actually finding them. You can also look at estate sales, but typically for me, what's worked the best is going to local Goodwills and thrift stores. I haven't had too much luck with the garage sales. Some of the garage sales, I've been to like a book sale, like some of the church book sales are very good as well. But those are just a few tips. One thing I found recently is it's a first trade edition of Dark Rivers of the Heart by Dean Koontz, and it was signed, and it was just at a local Goodwill. So, like I said, find a genre that you like to collect. You're going to collect maybe in that genre, maybe a particular author that you really like. I started collecting Stephen King at one point, and even if it's just to build a collection of things that you're going to read and not necessarily first editions, then that's a really good way to get into book collecting. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the value of the book. It could just be for the love of that genre or author. And typically that coalesces into a greater collection. So that is how I would personally recommend to get into book collecting. And there are a few places that you can check out to actually find some of these books and start your collection.